Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Albion Informer. In today's special interview episode, we cover the recent drama surrounding the guild called the Iron Bank that was blowing up all over Reddit and got heavily moderated on the official forums last week. The events that followed have massive implications on the economy of our game, us as players of Albion Online, and potentially reach far beyond our game's community.
Usually, at the beginning of the week, we do our PvP show, and we give you an update on the recent developments in the world of Albion. But this week, we felt like it is more important for us to cover this story, the Iron Bank Saga. After spending the last few days trying to dig deeper into the story, reading through sources and spending about 40 hours or so between the two of us, trying to make sense of what is happening, we eventually had a chance to talk to Sharka, the GM of the Iron Bank. He agreed to come onto the show to tell us his side of the story. And while we do not necessarily agree with all of the actions taken by them initially, we want to provide a platform for him and the Iron Bank nonetheless, to give them a chance to tell their story as factually as possible.
Before we start the interview, in which you will hear Sharka describe the events that led to where we are today in an extremely concise and well-spoken fashion, we would like to make a statement. While researching the events that transpired, some very unfortunate information was uncovered. You can find this information online if you want to look into the sources. But for the sake of not spreading bannable content, we will not link it directly in our show notes. We reached out directly to SBI for a comment on the following statements and their possible ramifications. This is a quote by Bersalak. Most of the money he used was normal in-game silver! There is no real obligation from our side to do anything! Important! Written in caps. Actually, after this incident, we can also never reimburse someone again for this. End quotes. Firstly, any money used in an illegal venture is illegal money, and SBI should never insinuate that any of this money is normal. Second, if you stand by your statement that you will never reimburse someone again for this, you will be knowingly profiting from gold sellers who inflate property costs and, in theory, other goods as well, on the backs of your players who don't know about this and might unwillingly spend real-life money to outbid or pay the silver difference caused by illegal activity. They responded by referring us to their Reddit statement and informed us they were working with the Iron Bank on a resolution. Bersalak admitted that he said some things he should not have, though he did not go into details as to what those were. In addition, we have just received word that an official investigation has occurred, uncovering extensive fraud perpetrated against the Iron Bank by an illegal enterprise, and that the exact amount of the silver that the fraudulent activity caused is currently being offered to the owner of the plots affected.
This statement and the action taken, however, do not address our or the Iron Bank's primary concerns. Your flawed, unsecured, pay-to-win game design, in addition to your statement that you will not pay back players affected by an illegal activity, in theory, allows you, SBI, to profit from the actions of gold sellers who inflate prices paid by unaware players. This is unacceptable and cannot possibly be how you want to do business. We expect a proper response to the community where you address the issues presented and provide us with a solution to this problem. We hope this episode shines a light on the problem, and we sincerely hope you guys are scrambling right now to get this fixed immediately. But now we will start the interview, where Sharka The GM of the Iron Bank describes the events that lead to where we are today.
Hello, today with Albion Informer we have Sharka, formerly of the Iron Bank, the dissolved Iron Bank if you will. We are currently going over, and have been going over for quite a while now, his current situation, and he has generously agreed to tell his story of how things happened. So Sharka, if you will, please inform our audience as what happened with the Iron Bank.
All right, so I apologize in advance for the rant, but there's really only one way to get it out. So first I want to say, there's only, based on the article that we published to share our side of the story, and there was some RP in it as well, it's really hard to condense everything that happened in the situation into a few paragraphs, right? So there's a lot of confusion on the internet of exactly how it went down and what happened, and speculations and conspiracy theories. So, it's probably a lot easier just to hear it out of someone's mouth. I also want to say that I've always had the utmost respect for SVI, even when we disagreed with them. And everything that Versalak has said in his statements are technically true, but because he's tried to silence our situation, and because he's made his own posts and spins on the story without the context of how everything went down, you can derive different conclusions based off of the same facts. So basically what happened is you kind of have to start at the very beginning. I and a few people have been playing this game since alpha. We've taken extensive breaks, of course, through the test like many. We wanted to create a guild before launch, and we sat down and we really looked at the game and how we played it over the years, being in other top guilds. And to us, it was just a very stale way of playing the game. So we wanted to create an economic powerhouse that really highlighted all the other game features of the econ side of the game that other guilds have not really tapped into, right? So you've seen it on individual levels, but never on a grand scale. And so we really, truly were trying to be the Iron Bank of Albion. And that was the only way that we could personally find enjoyment in it. So we had 3 months to prepare for launch. We got that done. We spent most of our time developing systems instead of worrying about beta. We set our guild up in a corporate infrastructure. You had me at the top. You had 4 directors. You had many different assistant directors. You had managers under that, and then you had supervisors. I think our management pool ended up somewhere in the 30-plus mark. It was a highly delegated system for not only protection and safety of resources, but also to make sure that people didn't burn out, to make sure that the best people in the right positions that could really focus in on a few aspects of the guild and making those function very, very well, like a well-oiled engine, instead of, me sitting in town playing Tetris with boxes all day, burning out because I'm trying to balance an entire sandbox of a game. Everything went off to a great start. We, recruited, delegated out responsibilities. One of the things that made our launch so successful was one of the systems that we incorporated was a shareholding system. So just as in real life, we knew that going into this game, we wanted to go into land acquisition as well as food and other assets as well. And to do that, we needed investment capital. And so the shareholder system was a way where all of the people in the guild who were behind this vision could voluntarily give their founders money, whatever percentage they want. We basically, sold them A-class and B-class shares, in which those shares would warrant them a percentage of profits in the future based on a dividend payout, just like you would in real life. And they would also be given monthly earning reports with those so that they knew down to the T where all of their money went. The system was very successful. We raised about 1.2 million, I believe, in gold as far as investment capital to go into launch with. It was actually a little bit less than that. It just kind of climbed up a little bit during the first hours of launch when the server stability was kind of rough and we needed to pull in some extra. So we incorporated more people into the system so that we could situate ourselves and carry on. We knew, based on the fact of our player experience, we had a lot of new players. We also knew from the economic side that the Caerleon plots were important to us. Also, we knew that we weren't going to go into the black zone right away. So Caerleon was our best bet. We ended up securing 6 central plots in Caerleon. One of those plots was a 4 plot. So technically we owned 9 central plots adjacent to each other. And we continued to make money on those during the first weeks of launch. And, you know, we did really well. We had to blow around 900 or so thousand gold around the 1-to-1 ratio in the first hours of launch to be able to secure those plots. But during the first weeks, with the money that came from the plots through our market trading with auction houses and the silver to gold conversion, and through other means such as farming, we were able to make the gains on the investments that we pursued and make most, if not almost all of that money back. Now, granted, you know, around 800, before the bidding war that this whole thing revolves around happened, you know, we had made back up to around 800,000 gold. And then after the bidding war had ended through this whole scenario, we still had around 500,000 gold. And then if you would actually liquidate the value of the plots that we own, plus what we had in the, you know, the bank, such as resources and armor and stuff like that, you basically get back to the ballpark that we're talking about of the initial 1.2 million gold investment from the shareholding system plus profits during the first few weeks of launch, which was just an amazing feat. And it just shows that people ask us all the time, why is it that I need to be in a guild? Because in this game, like, it's the teamwork that allows you to be relevant, okay? You can technically do everything solo in this game, but together, if you invest in each other and support each other, you can accomplish goals that no individual could accomplish on their own. So we were, you know, I was the largest shareholder. I had put in 125,000 gold into the system. All of my money was through Recruit a Friend and such. So, and the founders and all that. So, you know, it was just a great thing. We were very excited for the launch and how everything turned out. Now, this kind of leads us into what happened during the second week whenever the plots occurred. There's one more piece of information. There was another player that had joined my guild in beta for, I think, like maybe a week. He was a cool guy. He helped out a little bit, and then he decided he wanted something more established, so he left peacefully. And, you know, we were on the friends list, and I watched him guild hop, so forth. We didn't really talk that much, but every occasional hey or whatever. Fast forward 2 months to launch. Right before launch, I get a message from him saying that he had created his own, like, Chinese-based guild. We were like, that's cool. I was asking, like, how the latency is with all that and such. And he was asking about a potential alliance. And we had a very well thought out plan of how we were going to do our alliance. It was going to work through a contract system, something more stable, something that relied less on just you're my enemy and they're my enemy, so let's just group up temporarily and then get mad at each other later and then break up and you walk away with 20 plots and then we're screwed kind of situation. We wanted something where it was more centralized and more stable, so that investors that come into guilds that come into the Iron Bank Alliance would be almost like investors, and it's a stable relationship and they don't have to worry about one guild leaving and taking tons of stuff. So basically, we told him, because of the how much work it would take to put into that, the first few weeks of launch, we would definitely have to dedicate to internal growth and getting our systems set up, getting some training before we can really worry about diplomatic relationships with other guilds. So I told him to wait. He said it was cool. Then we stopped talking again. Fast forward, now we're at bid time, the second week of launch. This is around Saturday, or I believe Saturday. In the afternoon, I am actually in the middle of moving in real life. I'm actually visiting my family in Kentucky, so this is taking place on Discord on my phone. So he contacts me. He asks, hey, are you going to keep your plots? And we're like, yes. You know, this conversation went on at length. It's posted in our article. You can read the whole thing. But the short version is I told him we were going to keep the plots. I told him that we were going to expand. He said that he wanted to bid on them. I told him that's kind of an odd move to do. If we're supposedly, you know, somewhat friends and good standing with each other, you ask to be a part of an alliance with us. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you, you know, how to play this game. It's part of the game. If you want to bid against us, that's perfectly fine, but you won't beat us, okay? The reason I said that was because from a diplomatic standpoint, I was trying to persuade an individual to not bid on our plots because for two reasons. One, I knew we had the capital to beat them. I knew that we were one of the richest guilds in the game. Also, I knew the status of his guild very lightly. I knew the size of it, and I knew how new it was. And from our conversations in the past, I knew that they didn't have the structure that we did. So there's, no way that they had the capital to outbid us. I told, my friends, expect some bids from this guy tomorrow. And the guy had said, he's like, oh, well, we'll see. He kind of starts getting frustrated with me that I'm basically telling him these things. So now it's kind of turning into sort of a pissing match, I guess. And what I was just trying to explain to him was like, look, there's other cities, other plots, in Caerleon that you could bid on. Why don't, if you research the guilds and you look up who owns them, you might have a better chance of grabbing something. Because if you bid against us, you're going to lose. And then next month, you're not going to have anything to make money off of. Whereas you can go and spend less money and actually get something from another guild. Okay. It was more of advice I was giving him. So it was left, he was kind of upset about it. He's like, we'll see. We're going to look at what the lowest value is and this, that, and the other. I go to bed. I tell my guys, expect some bids from this guy, whatever. When this conversation took place, I didn't think that we were going to be in the situation that we were in. I wake up the next morning. I'm still with my family out of town on my phone, and I get a call on Discord from my director and assistant director of capital and commerce. So they informed me that what happened the night before, which this would be Saturday night going into Sunday morning, that it came time to bid on the plots. It was our time to bid because it was our last 24 hours, right? And they started to put money into the big plot first, the 4 plot. They started to bid, and they realized something suspicious going on. The amounts, as it started to approach the, the 30 million mark, right? The amounts just kept going, and it looked suspicious. So, he went over and they checked other plots, and they noticed that those plots had, even ones that Nilfgaard stuff was bidding on, were nowhere near the ballpark of where this was climbing to, which was suspicious because we anticipated that guilds like Nilfgaard stuff would have more money than us just because of their situation in the game. So we went back and they looked at the name, and for the sake of this, I'm not going to release that name, but it's out there. And basically, we decided to type that name into the internet, and we found the website associated with that name, which is a gold trading site, which just conveniently in the past week has seemed to sponsor Albion officially on their website. The total bids we had to liquidate was a little under 100 million silver to keep those plots. We calculated out the amount of money when you spread it across all of our plots that the guy bid on. Granted, he bid on all of our plots. He had to have dropped a total, like if you want to convert it to real life currency, a total of around $2,000 worth of gold to be able to bid against us. Now, the only reason why we were successful like we were was because we were very unique and because we did the shareholding system with 200-something people. Their guild of their size, no one player that quick should have that much on them. So before we bid on everything, we took screenshots, we collected all the information, we sent in tickets, right? We sent in tickets on Sunday before we did all these bids. And then we realized, or we got wind from some moderators, that this was the first day that the devs and stuff were taking a significant break off of the game since launch had happened. They wanted their breather. It just unfortunately happened on one of the most important days during the first 2 weeks, which is the first bidding cycle. So we had to make a decision. Based on the evidence that we had a suspicious character bidding way more money than he probably should have, based to our knowledge, okay? And the stars just kind of aligned for us that something illegal was potentially happening here. We had 2 options. We either let the plots go, or we keep the plots. Now, our first inclination was, this is a serious issue. We knew a pay-to-win mechanic was in the game for plots because the nature of how it's set up, like anybody with a credit card can come swipe it. But to combat an actual gold trading company that has so much capital at their disposal is a whole different scale of things, and it's illegal. So because of, the gravity of the situation, we took the option to keep quiet, okay? We wanted to contact to keep quiet. It basically happened like this. We wanted to buy the devs time to look into their game to fix it before we had to explain to our shareholders where all their money went. So we ended up postponing that for a week when it was all said and done, of stuff that they were clamoring for information on. They wanted their payouts. They wanted this, that, and the other. We decided to keep it secret between us for them to have time to do the tickets. If we would have let the plots go, our guild would have been rioting in the streets. Okay, you have to keep in mind that there's not only the intrinsic value and the financial value of the plots themselves, but there is a morale component of they're supposed to be in this highly organized guild, and you're telling me that an econ guild can't keep their plots 1 week past launch. Something's not right. These guys suck. So to save face for us and to also keep people calm and quiet and not know what's going on, we decided to also to bid on the plots. We also calculated it out and realized the money that we spent on the plots was not the point. Okay, this whole story is not about the gold. It's about the symptom of a larger problem. The money that we had to liquidate to keep the plots is around 170 to 200,000 gold. Okay, now we say a range because we have all the information needed to verify with the logs that they have, except for one little piece of information. We do not know the starting bid of where that person started at on the 4 plot, because when we didn't realize until after we started bidding what was occurring. But we had all the information on all the other plots, the starting and ending bids, the names, everything, the time, all of it. And so that is why we provided a range to them with calculations and provided all the information that VersaSelect later asked for. So continuing with the story, we bid on the plots and we kept them. We knew that even with the, I think it was like 97, 98, somewhere in that million silver, we were still going to make profits off of it the next month. It was the principal fact that we don't feel like we should be having to pay, $1 grand worth of gold or something to be combating gold traders, right? That's illegal activity that we're having to go to face-to-face warfare with, something that we've never seen in the game. So we bid on the plots. We kept them. We kept everything quiet. We waited a couple days. We didn't get a response. Keep in mind that we had sent a ticket in. We had sent a group message to some of the higher ups in SI on the forums. And then I ended up eventually having to contact VersaSelect directly through Discord. So the way that started, which the conversation's there as well, is, I sent just a nice professional message inquiring about what was the status of this investigation. His response was, this person has been banned. What else can we do for you? I was kind of taken aback a little bit by that, but it's a message. I'm not going to read that much into it, but it was a little bit aggravating to me because there was some clear oversight that just banning the guy was going to be good enough. You have a broken, busted game, and you had a player base that had to invest hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Right, and I'm not
the
saying
equivalency. Yeah, well, let's just say it's the and this is you explained this to me earlier, is that most of the gold that your guild had acquired in the beginning with the share system was founders gold and referral gold. Yeah, and you have records of this, but I don't. For this conversation we don't need it. I just wanted to clarify that this is mostly people who invested their $100, all got together, took their gold, and then bought a city plot by being very well organized. And then we had somebody whose business it is to steal gold from video games come in and bid against you, inflating the price and in the same time devaluing silver for all of us or gold, I'm sorry, because when you guys had to liquidate that much silver, it had a direct effect on the rest of the economy for the rest of us. So anybody who thinks they're not affected by this, you were all in one way or another kind of affected by this. And this is not a one-time issue, because we're going to see this again. Now, please, Sharka, continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, that clarified some things. I mean, all of our operations were done through legitimate means, and you know, we are fighting illegitimacy. So if it would have been a regular player with a different name who swiped a credit card, we probably wouldn't have noticed, to be honest with you. We probably would have just bid it, explained to our shareholders we were losses, and continue with next month. It's actually a blessing in disguise that we found out this early so that the devs could get on this before the gold traders, companies, and other pay-to-win players have a chance to abuse this mechanic further. Because you have to understand that it's not about the gold. We could come back from the gold super easy. I mean, it was just chump change to us. The problem is that this issue is only going to get compounded each month that goes by. If it's not us, it's going to be someone else. And you're not going to feel this directly. It's going to be a few months in, and you're going to have gold farmers buying and selling, and then you're also going to have them farming. You're going to have them increasing their wealth, and then purchasing. Why would they not purchase plots? Like, you're talking about something that you can invest in and let it sit there and rot and pretty much make an, you know, return on your investment. Okay, it's not that hard. You don't even have to feed the thing sometimes to get investments out of it. It is a stable way for them to get passive income. It devalues currency. It disrupts the economy and the gameplay, and they can take all that money that they make through all their different efforts, through multiple people and bots, convert that back into real life dollars, reinvest it again and again and again, and it compounds the issue over and over and over. So eventually you're going to have a situation where it doesn't matter if you're a guild that's been situated in this market for 2 years. A gold company could come in overnight and wipe your plots clean, set like just complete disruption with a pay-to-win mechanic through illegal activity. That should honestly, in my opinion, never be in the game. And there is a post by Angry Buddha that we posted last night after all this fallout. It is on the forums, and it is our proposal on how they could fix the plot system to make it better. But back on track. So Berslack and I had a conversation for over like a couple days, and he asked us, you know, for information. We provided everything he wanted, the coordinates. We provided the spreadsheets. We calculated everything for him. Now, of course, we know that he has to verify through logs. I stood at the plot near him when he said that he was like looking at the logs and detecting, like, I can see where X and X, you know, did their bid, you know? And we're like, okay, like, so you see our point now. He's like, well, I can't just hand you $500. He's like, right? So he says that first, which is understandable to some extent. You know, like, anybody could go cry to the devs and say, like, oh, you know, give me my money. You know, like,
right.
Investigation.
Just to clarify, why 500? You just said that kind of randomly. Was that the amount of money that you calculated, converted to gold? That would be the difference?
I don't really know exactly where his...
I think he was just saying for $500 you can get 105,000 gold. And what he's trying to say is I can't just give you $500. And that's just his first statement, is I can't give you this much gold. It's not... Yeah, it has nothing to do with calculations at this point.
As this conversation is taking place, you have to understand that within hours of all this happening, an investigation took place enough that the person that bid on our plots was banned for illegal money, right? So that, in combination with the guy having a gold selling website name, is what more proof do you need? All right, like the thing that gold sellers do is they farm it. Unless they're farming it with a third-party bot, it's farmed through legitimate means.
Well, it's not even always farmed. Like, here's the thing: is once there's any illegitimate money in there, you can't tell how much of that went back and forth, was cleaned or whatever, because clearly if they can't... Later in this conversation, Bersalak reveals that he can't just do a month-long investigation and reveal exactly what happened because they don't have the proper log mechanics to do so. Now that worries me on another level, but my point is here that
But the severity of this issue is on a different scale, and the fact is he was able to look at the logs simply enough to be able to detect where the guy was bidding. So I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm saying is he doesn't have the logs to say that he knows how much he owes you. But he does have the logs to say that some of this money was legal. No, he does not. He has no way of knowing what percentage of that snowballed gold that this guy used was gotten by legal or illegal means. And in any illegal activity, when you have your money mixed with clean money, good money mixed with bad, I'm sorry, it's all bad. And at no point should he have ever said, some of this is gotten by legal means. No, I'm sorry, you have no way of knowing that, sir.
And we have no idea, like, they might have tracers on the gold but not the silver, or they might have both. But speculation is not, like, really why I'm here or why this story even broke out, right? Like, it's us sharing our story that is getting silenced, and we're not sharing any information other than what you can see with your own two eyes and our personal experience and interaction with this game, which this is just kind of like an icing on the cake to what we've dealt with over the years of development of some good choices, some poor choices. There is still fun to be had in this game, but some of the ways that things are handled, for us personally, the core leadership of Iron Bank, we just got kind of done with it. Mm-hmm. But to continue, like, with what his situation was, you have to understand that the character was already banned. Banned before, Burslack and I were talking. And gold trading, regardless, when they farm it, unless it's through a bot, it is legitimate, technically, because they farmed it until it's been sold, right? So the thing is there's that to throw in there, but whatever. So we knew that an investigation was going to have to take place. After he said, well, I can't give you $500, he's like, but I will do this. I'll give you an option A and an option B, okay? Option A, you can take 105,000 gold. Option B, you can wait at least a month for us to do a full investigation, which blew our mind because it should not take a full month to do that. And you might get your money back. But then later on, I have to find the quote, do you have it right in front of you?
Yeah, I do have are you talking about the end quote at the end of his end of his conversations with you?
Kind of where that all ended up.
All right. Now, I just have a quick question here because I do want to ask. Were you ever asking for actual money, or are you only actually asking for gold?
So we wanted... Okay, you have to understand that we have a duty and a responsibility to reply to our shareholders with their financial statements and their dividends, okay? So we are on a time clock. We're already pushing back our guild. Our guild is rioting inside because they put money into it. They're worried. So what we wanted was, see, if you take, and I'm rounding up to the worst case scenario, like we'll say 180, 190,000 gold. Mm-hmm. If you take that, there's, through other trading, this past week, just having that extra money alone would have profited us another 100,000 gold just through trade. Right, but here, just let me,
my question was, and this is what I want to be clear, is
gold.
It was just gold. At no point did you ever ask for money.
No, the only reason why we wanted the gold back was because we wanted, because silver was continuing to climb. So if they gave us the silver back at the amount, then we would have lost a significant amount of money. So you would have lost a significant amount of silver or gold. You wouldn't have lost any money. You would have lost your investment before. But I just want to make it clear, because it sounds like Burslack, I'm reading this conversation a couple of times, and he does say, like, he's referring to this as actual money, and he's referring to it as $500, and then he does offer you gold, but the gold he actually offers you is the equivalent of $500, isn't it? You'd have to go double check that. I don't have it right in front of me, but what I'm trying to say is it's roughly half of what we lost through what we had to bid through that person, that illegal activity person. It's what we had to bid difference between where it started, basically where his bid outbid the other players, that difference. So we were only asking for the gold back from the illegitimate bidder. Right. You were never asking for any refunds or any money back. You were just asking for, hey, you say you can see how, you can see in the records. You offered me to look in the records. I want you to do something better than offering me half the money that you can clearly say I lost. I want you to do better than something along the lines of telling me some of this is legitimate money and therefore you don't owe me anything. And I want you to do better than telling me wait a month. Now, at one point, you do even say that you want them to do an investigation and find out what happens and then, get your money back, right? And his response is they can't do that.
He doesn't think that's actually possible. When he looks into the facts, he doesn't actually think they have the ability to do that. And then after this, I just want to do this to get this story out here. And he says that your screenshots are not relevant for us, and we have to confirm this in our system. Everything else would be careless. In truth, I don't even know if option B is valid. Option B being looking into their system to see exactly how much you lost over a month's period. And then he goes, let me repeat what I said earlier. Most of the money he used was normal in-game silver, and he uses an exclamation point here to emphasize his point. There is no real obligation from our side to do anything, exclamation point. It is only that I wanted to help you guys out quickly. Now, I feel like this man is under a lot of stress, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt here. I really do, because I want to say that he tried to help you and that he thought what he was doing was valid. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, when I read this, the way he says this out is incredibly narrow-minded and short-sighted about what he is dealing with. He either doesn't see the gold sellers as a problem that we are dealing with as well, or doesn't believe that he has any need to protect us from it. And you said earlier to me, you said something, and I'm going to let you say this now. Go ahead and tell me how you felt about it. What did you actually want from Berslack? And it wasn't just about that missing 60,000 gold between what he offered you and your lowball estimate. It was about something else.
So when this all went down and we decided to keep it quiet because we wanted to give the opportunity to fix the game and for them to return the money for us and continue pushing on like normal, like nothing ever happened, so that they could deal with this in the back end without it blowing up. Our ultimatum basically internally was, we have shareholders that are barking at our door. Because of the nature of our system, we have to be transparent. What we want is, honestly, it to go like this. Wow, it was complete oversight, or we apologize that this happened, something along those lines. We have banned the character. We are looking to investigate ways that this won't happen again in the future. And we will do an investigation and get your money back ASAP, because we're losing compounding interest every single day on this money, which we're not asking for extra compensation. We're just asking for the principle. We wanted the devs to do right by us. That's it. It was just like, apologize that it happened in your game because it shouldn't have. Give us the money back, right? The gold, mm-hmm. right? And then try to fix this problem. And we can keep our shareholders happy, and you can keep you happy, and we don't have to tell anybody, and you can get this fixed. But because he wasn't giving us an option other than take this a little bit of money, or which we weren't going to accept, or wait a month. We don't have that luxury. First of all, the amount of money that we would have made over, like, I'm saying gold, right? Like money, just in-game money. Like the amount of gold and silver and stuff that we would have made through investing and markets and stuff like that through playing the game over the next month with that capital would have made huge gains for us. Okay, so that's unacceptable. The second thing is that we have to tell the shareholders, and that's what we tried to explain to him. This is not a situation where I, as a player, lost a little bit of money to a gold seller and I'm willing to keep quiet long enough for them to do a full investigation. This is a system where we're responsible for 250 members, and all the money that they put into us, we promised them earning reports, we promised them dividend payouts, and we are short money, and we have to explain why we had to make the judgment we did to outbid a plot. And I'm sorry, I'm not lying to my guild based on illegitimate activity that shouldn't have happened in the game in the first place.
There was, when he said that you're not allowed to tell your guild, basically, is what he wants. Well, he
didn't say that.
Yeah, no, he didn't, but he doesn't want you to tell anybody, is what he's saying. And when it did go to your guild, and there was a spy, and that spy leaked it, he blames you.
Yeah, like, so we told him that by Friday we needed to know if we were getting our money back sooner, right? We just needed that. We needed proof that they actually had an actual plan that they were going to fix this situation. Because as of late, it looks like they're just scrambling around trying to figure out something to do because they don't know how to handle it. But that's just what it looks like on the outside. I don't know what their plans are inside. That's fine. The thing is that we told them that we postponed our entire guild for a week to deal with this issue the right way. We don't have a month. I have to go tell my members. We knew that if we told our members, there was a high chance the game of telephone and blowout would begin to happen. You're one of the most successful guilds in the game. You're bound to have some spies in there. You're going to have, out of 200 some people, you're going to have people that don't in different languages and stuff, you're going to have some misinterpretation of events, and it's going to get spread around different ways, and people are going to be upset for different reasons. And we knew it was going to be a cluster. All right. So, but it came down to, we got his final statement. We respectfully rejected his offer, and we explained why. And we told him, we're going to have to tell our guild what happened. So Sunday evening, I had an emergency guild meeting. I had around 100 people or so show up for it. We explained this whole chain of events, just like we are today talking about it. And during the interview, now you have to keep in mind that before we had an ultimatum, we had planned for the positive and the negative outcome. So we already wrote an article for ourselves that we could release, because we knew that if the devs didn't come through for us, those of us in leadership, because we've been playing the game so long and it was just our personal decision, that we were just going to leave the game. And we wanted to share our story and make it public because we feel like it's a significant issue that needs to be brought to the attention, that we're having to leave the game as one of the most successful guilds in the game. And I understand that that is in the economic side. I'm not, we're definitely not a PvP guild, but we did well with what we did, and we're having to leave the game because of this system that shouldn't be in the game. So we wrote the article, we had it on the back end, we weren't going to release it. The plan is if we were going to leave, which we decided to eventually, was we had to figure out, based on the assets that we have, we needed to figure out how to liquidate things and raise the money back. That was the total investment of the shareholdings, which was 1.2 million. Okay, so we had around 500 or so thousand gold on hand left after all this took place. We had the rest of it invested into items and gear and 9 Carleon plots and what have you, okay? Or buildings. And we knew that we could sell the buildings for 12.5, and put that 12.5 mil per building plot, and then we could liquidate that and make the difference and turn it into gold, whatever. Okay, and that was the plan. It was going to take time, but we were going to do it on the down low, because we knew that once we announced it to a group of players, it was going to be a race, okay? A race to get everything done before everything explodes. And we wanted to make sure that everybody got their initial investments back. It was never a plan to give it back so quickly, but we were actually in a good spot because we did so well that we actually could. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. We started looking for buyers for our plots. So you have the person that was banned at the beginning of the week. You have the conversations I have with Bursalag, right? A couple days or so after this whole scenario, you have Bursalag releasing a post about how to combat gold traders by locking down gold, which honestly does nothing to...
I have seen nothing that it does to stop gold trading, other than the one thing I see that it has done is that it locks the ability to put gold into a guild and then remove it with another individual. But that shouldn't be a situation that they can't track that. What it tells me is that they have poor tracking, because what they're doing isn't...
They have poor tracking after how many years?
4 years.
They don't even have guild logs, really? Jesus Christ.
And this isn't a game where they're selling gold for cash and have that directly tied to the silver. And it has been a fundamental feature from the very beginning of the game until now. And they're telling a guild that this is not an important thing for them to look into. They have much more important things to deal with. And that the way that that was explained was shocking to me. I'm just absolutely shocked by the response, the official response by this.
For us to be told that they technically don't have to do anything was just like a stab in the eye. After like playing this game for so long and trying to be professional through this communication, explaining to him that the reason we'd have to go public is because our hands are tied because of a loyalty and respect to our own members. And I'm sorry, but I'm not lying to 250 people based on behalf of a poor game design decision. I was willing to try to work with it as best as I could, but we can't keep it quiet if we don't get the payment back, and we don't get it, we can't keep quiet if things are not resolved, because this issue would just get compounded.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see, where does that leave us? So, okay, so we look at ways that we could liquidate the plots. We approached some guilds, and just out of respect for them, I'm not going to name them, but top guilds. I mean, we all know that the rankings and leaderboards in the game are just bogus because there's so many ways and that they're flawed. But we basically approached some of the most successful guilds in the game, and we asked if they wanted our plots. One of which, a very, very early alpha guild that is still here today doing very well, didn't even have the capital to buy our plots for 12.5. Now, you have to understand that, going back to what we were talking about, like, putting in that patch, right, like, did absolutely nothing. And then we saw one little piece in there that was very interesting to us. We increased the maximum payout for someone who wants to sell their plots to 10 million silver. So now you've restricted players from being able in a, through a contract system in game of some sorts to be able to safely transfer ownership through a transaction of silver to purchase, right?
And that's up
basically
from 1
block
million,
that.
right? That's 1 million. That previously is what's capped at 1 million, right?
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
doesn't
but
make sense. But
I can make
neither
$1
of them
million in half a day on a building, okay? I can make 10 million on one of those buildings in Caerleon within the first, few days. Not only that, but they capped at 10 million on all plots. So even our 4 plot that actually had 4 different sections was capped out at 10 million, okay? That's just dumb, because those are actually 4 plots. It should have been at least 40 million, but that's just still
I feel like they're very stressed. I want to defend these guys because I like a lot of these guys, and I do feel like this situation is bad, and it looks really bad for them. And I worry that they don't see how bad it looks to people who are huge fans of them, and it's bad for reasons I don't think they comprehend. When you do what you did and fail so terribly, because guys, SBI, you have failed terribly at this gold to silver thing in a way that after 4 years should not be allowed. No. Bad. Go get a newspaper, whack yourself on the nose, Stefan, because this was bad. And you should have gone out of your way to find anybody that this affected, personally, guild-wise, whatever you could do, and fix it. Not do this lowball bullshit that you seem to be a fan of. And
$500 or 200k gold seems to be like a tiny drop in a huge bucket of currency you can create out of thin air.
And here's the thing is you had how many referrals? You had 29 referrals is what you told me, correct?
This is me personally.
Yes, you personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you brought $3,000-ish to this game.
I don't know. I mean,
we're just going to be nice and say everybody was a legendary. Everybody loves this game so much. We're all willing to spend $100 on it for the privilege to play it, which many of us have. And right now, the way they're responding to us is that they really think it's a fucking privilege. Like, to say that we owe you nothing is just, that's a slap in every one of our faces.
So I also want to iterate too that, again, there was no vindictive behavior in any of this decision making. This is an unfortunate series of events where they have an obligation to their company and we have an obligation to our shareholders. And it puts us in a very unprecedented situation because never in my life have I ever had to deal with this type of level of illegal activity, combating, kind of stuff. So I have respect for the team. We're still here. We've played the game since alpha, right? We've played through all the good and the bad. We've seen questionable judgment. We've debated with them on forums, right? And that's just part of game development. But this is on a whole different scale. This is basically somebody telling me, and he can go back on his words later and rephrase it in a different way, but at face value, it doesn't matter if someone misunderstands you. It's the duty of the individual to make sure you're not misunderstood, okay? And at the end of the day, regardless of what their intentions are about us resolving this situation, it was not handled appropriately. And some of the statements that were made to us does not lead us to believe that we can really support their actions and judgment, which means that we have to leave the game, which means that we have to give our shareholder money back as the best way possible, and we need to do that in an orderly fashion. The problem is we didn't get the money back, and we needed to sell the plots. Because the guilds that we were trying to approach were scrambling to try to get money, they were begging us to wait so that they could go get the money together, buying a plot every 3 days. the thing is we were only offering 12.5 million, which we would have had to get the extra money through, trade.
Yeah, because you can't, there's no...
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, let's all be real clear here. That's actually a cheap price, and this 10 million thing is just a real kick, and their idea that whoever, loses in an auction gets half the money and they should be happy with that. I don't know where they're getting this idea from. Like, how unfamiliar with your game are you that you don't understand the way this works?
And I first understood that we wanted our money back to some extent, the gold. But I don't think he really comprehends the significance of the issue at hand and the complexity at which the Iron Bank operates at, which is more complex than any game in this, or any guild in this game.
Well, here's the thing: is in games like EVE, which they're trying to emulate, you create very complex economic systems, which certain types of people are going to want to go to. If you're targeting EVE, you're trying to target those people. When I heard this was a completely player-crafted economy, yeah, that's why I came here. It's for the economy. When you tie your gold to your silver and you tie your land, which is the one thing they're not making any more of is land, right? Isn't that what we're all told? And Carleon is the central city of the world. You have a centralized plot that is worth way more than this 10 million limit that they've placed. And now they're saying that you have to trust some other player for the remainder, because they really do think that the most a plot should sell for, the most it should sell for is 10 million silver, and you can't trade gold. So as silver inflates in value, yeah, the value of plots is gonna plummet. It just doesn't make any sense.
Due to the lack of quality of life features for trading intercity, and due to the way that this game runs on, it is all about land acquisition. The silver acquisition is based mostly on the royal continent, and then the resources are found in the outlands, and you need a balance between both to make things successful. And you are basically telling an entire 2/3 of the game that has to support that 1/3 of PvP, that it is going to be extremely challenging to make it profitable, and the amount of work that we had to put in to make it profitable was just insane.
Oh, it's huge.
It's unacceptable.
Bogle and I have both run guilds. It's huge in this game, and the lack of in-game support for guilds, the structure of the game around guilds, it's so stressful.
We have been going on about this for 3-4 years now, right?
Yeah.
And I know they promised updates in the first patch month after the game goes live. But,
it should have been earlier. Look, I mean, some of the quality of life features we're asking for are systems that are already kind of in the game. You just have to change the permission. I'm not a game developer, but how long does it really take to make a guild bank?
How long does it take to make a guild leader be able to have the same abilities to see that your friends have? How come I can't tell when somebody was last logged in? In what game can a guild leader not see when his members logged in?
Or how long do I have to keep my entire member pool in my guild at a recruit level because I can't promote them because of
permissions? Yeah, the permission breaks. You can't design the permissions in 2017.
I have to trade everything through a Dropbox basically in the game. I have to put a box somewhere and share permissions and then reset up those permissions, and it's
so
fine.
much.
That's actually a cool mechanic, but whatever.
Besides the point is that let's just get to the long and short. You said you want one thing from these guys because there's one thing and only one thing really that they owe us all. That's it. There's one thing that they owe us in a game where they're tying money directly to the in-game currency. And you said it really brilliantly earlier. And can you remember what you said?
It was just they owe us the respect that the amount of energy, blood, sweat, and tears and money that we have invested into supporting their game development, that at minimum, regardless of how rocky launch could be, we should not have to be competing face-to-face against illegal activity. We should not have to be competing face-to-face against illegal activity. We should not have to be competing face-to-face against illegal activity. We should not have to be competing face-to-face against illegal activity.